Hi everyone, and welcome to Pear Ardo's Let's Play walkthrough of Quest for Glory 1, So You Want to Be a Hero, the VGA version. And in this particular walkthrough, we're going to play as a magic user. There are 3 classes that you can choose from when you start out the game, and that includes, of course, Fighter, Magic User, and Thief. And each of these, of course, has very specific skill sets, and of course, each of these, there are certain quests that only a magic user can do. There are certain quests that only a thief can do, and similarly, there are certain quests that only a fighter can do. And I will tell you, one of the great things about Quest for Glory, in traditional kind of RPG fashion, is that you can, at the end of the game, you can save your character, and then import that character into the next game. Which is nice. And I've actually done reviews of all of the Quest for Glory games recently on my blog, which you can check it out. And I put the game kind of has a different emphasis on so some games there's more emphasis on fighters, like Wages of War. Quest for Glory 3 had a much greater emphasis on the fighter walkthrough. Or the fighter character, whereas magic users I felt had a really much bigger emphasis in Quest for Glory 2 Trial by Fire, and Thief I think has probably the biggest emphasis in Quest for Glory 1, but also in 4. And then I honestly, by the time you get to 5, which was so much can be said about Quest for Glory 5, it kind of all evened out. Nevertheless, there's a lot of different routes you can take, and you can actually also build a hybrid character by giving your character skill sets or points that your character would normally have. So by giving a fighter magic skill, you can actually create like this magic fighter, and that would allow the fighter to buy and learn magic from a magic shop. Or by, let's say, giving a magic user the ability to pick a lock. That would give them the ability to do certain things that a thief couldn't do. Anyway, we're not going to go hybrid. We're going to go with the magic user to do this walkthrough. And of course, we'll be doing one for the fighter and the thief as well. And then, of course, the paladin when we get to that point. In Quest for Glory, I believe near the end of Quest for Glory 2, you get the option to become a paladin, and near the end of Quest for Glory, and then in Quest for Glory 3, that becomes a major piece of the game. And with a magic user, you can become a wizard in Quest for Glory 2. And there are certain better aspects to becoming a wizard than just a magic user. So a wizard, you have the wizard staff, and that will actually come quite handy throughout the games. So let's go ahead and create our character. I'm named my character as Daspian because that's like my alter ego. I've been using it for years. So if you've seen the name around, that's me, generally. And now we're going to take a look at your skills. Now, of course, magic user, 2 major skills are going to be intelligence and magic. And that has a direct impact on the number of magic points you have to start the game. And of course, there are some skills you don't really need to worry about. Parry, you probably don't need to worry about. Stealth, you don't need to worry about. Picking locks, throwing, climbing, not really skill sets that you need to worry about with a magic user. So, I'm going to go ahead and assign, we get 50 points, I'm going to go ahead and assign those points. The best way I look at it to assign the points is to give the majority of the 50 to magic and intelligence, and then, help round out those other points like agility, vitality, luck. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on all these points. By now, probably most of you know what they do. Just know that there's certain combinations like strength and vitality that affect your health points, and then like things like agility, which things like vitality affect your stamina as well. So they each have a different kind of impact on your overall kind of health, stamina, and magic points. The one piece that is still kind of nobody really knows what necessarily it does is luck. And that's because it's very vague in how that works out. So sometimes it might just be the chance of you finding what you're looking for. You start out coming into the village of Spielberg. Now, the story to this point, there really isn't one. It's very straightforward. You're a hero, you're looking for adventure, you're trying to get your name well known in the hero world, and you leave your little town, and you hear about this village of Spielberg that requires a hero. And they have a number of, monsters and quests to solve and whatnot. And so you decide to head off to Spielberg. So you're now entering the village of Spielberg, largely, without any experience. And your job is basically to become a hero. Which is why it's called So You Want to Be a Hero. So as we walk into town, we encounter the sheriff and Otto. Now, Otto is his goon, basically, his enforcer. Now, one of the things I'm just going to let you know right off the bat is, and if you watch the Space Quest 1 walkthrough, you know this, I have a tendency to click through the kind of speech bubbles relatively quickly because I've done them before. I'm going to try to let them stay up and at least describe to you what they're saying so that you're aware of the story and what's happening. So, largely, he's just basically introducing himself as Sheriff Schultz Meisterson and Otto von Goon, who's the assistant, and they're basically saying now that they really need a hero in this town. So, as they're our first people we meet, we should definitely take a chance and have a little talk with them and ask them about what is going on. So, let's ask him, let's see if we can ask about adventure. So he's telling us there's a guild hall nearby, so we can definitely go check that out. Wolfgang is the guy who runs the guild hall. Alright, so that's a good place to look. Baron Stefan, who lives in the castle in the north, so that's more characters. Let's learn about the brigands. Just robbed a merchant recently. Interesting. So let's ask about the merchant. Alright, we now found out that the merchant is staying at the inn, which is right next door here at the Hero's Tail Inn. So that's good to know. And now he's going to tell us that. Ask about treasure. You can ask about danger. It's not really going to give us a whole lot of information. Ask about the town. So it's named after the Barons of Spielberg. And he's going to tell a little bit about all the different things that are in town. There's a magic shop, which is great. And then you can ask about all these individual things. I'm not going to worry about that. Essentially, a lot of what we're going to be doing is working on getting points and trying to get that, max out the points at 500. And you only get 1 point for talking to the sheriff right off the bat. So we've got that point. We now have 2. So it's time for us to move on. Before we really go anywhere, let's take a look at what we have in our inventory. So we have 5 days of food rations. We've got a dagger. We have some leather armor. And we've got 4 gold pieces and 10 silver pieces. In this game, every 10 silver pieces equals 1 gold piece. And so we essentially have 5 gold pieces. But they like to give you a nice little, variety of money. So let's go ahead and let's walk right into the Hero's Inn. Now, the Hero's Inn is run by 2 characters. They're husband and wife, and they're known as the Kata. That is their race, and aptly named so because of they look like cats. And so this is Shamin, and he is the innkeeper. So let's go ahead and ask him a few questions. And let's ask about a room. So we can stay here at night. It's only 5 silvers. Now that's something to keep in mind, and we're definitely going to want to do that because it's always, a struggle to find a safe place to sleep, especially in a haunted Asked about the merchant, he tells us about his friend Abdullah, who's here recovering, and that he should be back around supper time. So if we want to talk to Abdullah and get an idea of what those brigands were like, we definitely want to make sure that we come back here at that time. So we can ask about this stuff, but Abdullah is really going to be the one giving us the information. I think that's good for him. I mean, you feel free if you want to ask him more questions, go right ahead. There's only 1 point you can get from asking Shameen questions, and so we got it. And we learned about Abdullah, which was the main thing we wanted to learn about. So then you're going to go ahead and sit down on the bench. This is the only bench you can actually sit in, so you don't have a choice to sit somewhere else. And then Shima will come out. Now Shima is his wife, and she also dances. So it'd be good to talk to her about some of the similar things. So ask her about the merchant. You ask her about Abdullah, the robbery. You don't get any points for asking her any of these questions. So just FYI. But you can order some food, and you will get a point if you order food from her. Now, you don't have to order food right now. You can order food anytime throughout the game. It's entirely possible. And you probably order it more than once. But, might as well try to get as many points as you can right off the bat. The main thing when you're asking either of them the questions is to make sure you're asking about Abdullah, so that you know that he's going to be here later tonight. Which means we're going to be coming back later tonight to talk to him. The whole food delivery process takes a little while. And then go ahead and eat your food, because there's no reason not to. Might as well adventure on a full stomach. So once she clears the table, we're going to go ahead and leave the inn and head to our next destination, which is going to be the magic shop. So back out into the town square, and then we're going to go west. You can see there's 3 buildings, 2 main buildings, one with the magic shop, which has this big giant eye above it. You have this old woman here. You can't really do anything. As a magic user, there's nothing really to do with this house. As a thief, you can break into it and steal from there, so that's just to note. And then, of course, the guild hall. So we're going to head into the magic shop right off the bat, and then we'll actually be going into the guild hall very soon. So here we are in the magic shop, and you need to walk a little bit farther into the shop, which will wake up the familiar, which is hanging out over here. And then Zara will come in. And here's Zara, and she's the proprietor for the magic shop. So, of course, as with everybody else that you meet, let's talk to her. You'll automatically get a point for talking to her. And basically you can ask her a number of different questions. You can ask her pretty much whatever you want. I would say definitely ask about initiation, understanding the path to the wizard. She's going to tell you about Erasmus, who is the other wizard, and we'll actually be meeting him later on. You can ask about being a hero. Tells you she has a power potion. She suggests that you head south to find out if you're worthy of becoming a wizard, which is actually what you will be doing in Quest for Glory 2. Not to ruin it for you, but you make very good friends with the Kata, and you actually end up traveling to their homeland of Shapir. So let's go ahead and ask her about magic. And let's see, let's ask her about herself. It's good to know. Ask her about fairy folk and power. And I want to ask her. I'm going to ask her about Spielberg, the magic shop. And she tells you now. Here she's telling you what we have for sale. So she's got restorative potions and scrolls to learn spells from. So let's talk about the spells. So you can buy the Fire Dart spell for 60 silver, Fetch for 40, Open for 30. You're going to need all three of these. And clearly we don't have the money to buy all three right now. But we're definitely going to want to buy one before we leave here. Excuse me. You can also find a spell, she tells you, if you learn the secret of Arana's piece. And we're going to go ahead and learn more about Arana and her piece and find that spell later on. And then we ask her about potions, and she tells you she has healing, vigor, and power potions for purchase. So we're going to go ahead right now and purchase a spell. And we're going to purchase the Fetch spell. Because remember, we can't afford all three, but we can at least buy one. So I went ahead and bought the Fetch spell, and you'll see why I chose the Fetch spell over the other two soon. One key thing to note is that because you can't buy all three, make sure you do come back, though, and buy Open and Flame Dart. Because, first off, you get 2 points for each of those spells that you buy. So you get a total of 6 points for buying all the spells. But you're going to need Open and you're going to need Flame Dart. Flame Dart is largely an offensive spell, but it's incredibly helpful as well for other things. And you're Open, I mean, you're definitely going to need that. So we're going to exit the magic shop and head on over to the guild hall. And you're going to note that as you go through the Quest for Glory games, if you haven't played them before, that every town largely has the same exact buildings. You have, a lot of times you have a healer or apothecary, you have a magic shop, you have a guild hall, you have a place for, fighters to go, and so on. So we're now in the guild hall, and as with most guild halls, there's a registration book, and it's incredibly important. You actually will get points if you go ahead and read the registration book. You get 4 points just for reading. And C's last entry several years ago was Baronet Bernard von Spielberg, who killed a troll near the Flying Falls. And then you want to go ahead and sign it as well. And that'll give you an extra point. Now over here on the far wall is a bulletin board, and so let's go ahead and take a look at that. That'll actually give you 6 points, and you should go ahead and read through all of the different posts on the board. And this is mainly where people are posting like, oh, I lost this, I need help with this, here's a reward for this. So immediately off the bat, reward for return of lost ring, inquire at the healers. Okay. Here's an older poster who's looking for the safe return of Elsa von Spielberg, and you get 50 gold coins. Reward of 30 gold coins for the capture of death of the brigand warlock. The spell components, the healer will buy spell components or trade them for potions. Here, wanted brigand leader, and you get 60 gold coins and be called the hero of the realm. And then here's another one for 50 gold coins for information leading to the return of Baronet Bernard von Spielberg. Now, as you can probably guess, we're going to be doing all of that. So now, we've got the guild master kind of hanging out over here. It's time to actually go and talk to him. And you're going to have to get close to him in order to have a conversation with him, because he's sleeping. And then he'll wake up. And then you'll talk to him. Now, there's a few key things you want to make sure you ask him about. You're only going to get 1 point for talking to him, but there's a few things that you definitely want to make sure you ask about. So first and foremost, ask about the curse. And he's going to tell you about Baba Yaga and all the monsters and all the brigands and everything else. And make sure you ask about all the things that are related from the curse. He's going to be kind of your source of information for this. So he tells you about Baron von Spielberg, and nobody would ever come here. Baba Yaga showed up. Ask him about the Baron's son. We know that he went missing. His body was never found. His daughter also went missing. carried off. And then he tells you about Yorick, the Baron's jester, who went off searching for her. And we can ask about Yorick. Ask about Baba Yaga, powerful ogress. Ask about being a hero. Ask about the brigands. Now, once you've gone through and asked about all the curse items and the related topics, you also want to make sure you ask about the guild hall. He's going to tell you about, the bulletin board, which we've already looked at. Ask him about the bulletin board, though. Ask him about the different rewards and quests on the bulletin board. He will give you some information. Like, now we know the healer's house is just north of the town gate. We know that the castle is now north of that. Ask him about monsters. There's a lot of different kinds of monsters here. And he'll tell you about each of those. You don't need to ask about each individual monster. Although, if you're a fighter, which we'll do with the fighter walkthrough, it's important that you do. Because he does tell you different things about those, and you can learn, how best to attack or not attack them. And then you want to ask about adventurers. And he's going to tell a little bit about himself and the sheriff and Antwerp's. And then you're done. You don't need to talk to him about anything else. So you're going to head back out. Excuse me. You're going to head back out to the main walkway, Main Street, as it were. And we're going to head east back to the town center. Okay, and you'll see the sheriff and Otto are still hanging out there. And now we're going to go ahead and head north on on this road to basically Market Square. Now here in this new screen, we've got two main buildings. There's actually three. Now Hilde is going to introduce herself. She's a centaur, and she's selling apples and vegetables. So of course we're going to want to talk to her. So you get a point just for talking to her. And you can ask her about whatever you want. Definitely ask about, what she's selling. You can ask about, being a farmer and her father. She doesn't really give you a lot of information. I would definitely ask about brigands, though. Just so you know. You can ask about a robbery. It tells you that they always ran to the southwest. So it kind of gives you an idea of where the brigand camp is. Ask her about what she's selling. So she's got, a bunch of vegetables, and she also has apples. Now, you only get 1 point for talking to her, so, you can ask her whatever you want. A lot of times when you ask people these, different questions, it does reveal information that you will need later on, and then if you didn't ask them that, you won't get that information. So it's important to try to ask them everything. I generally try to be very specific in what I ask, especially during these quests. So we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to buy apples, and we're going to buy 50 apples. So they come 10 apples. So we're going to do this 5 times. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you're probably asking yourself, gee, why are you buying 50 apples? You will see. We will need them later on. And I'm buying them now because I know we're going to need them later on. And all will be revealed in good time. And that will actually give you 3 points just for doing that. Now, yeah, you shouldn't have a problem affording that. If you bought like the Flame Dart spell, you may not have enough money. So there's a reason I bought the Fetch spell right off the bat. So now that we're basically done here, we're going to go ahead and go into the dry goods store and speak with the proprietor there. Okay. Little shopkeeper sitting there reading his book. I'm sure he doesn't get much business. Tells you, what he's got. Pretty ordinary stuff. Let's go ahead and talk to him. And let's go ahead and just ask him about equipment. He has daggers and chain armor. No magic items. You can ask him about flasks. He sells flasks at 2 silvers apiece. Ask him about food. He also sells rations. So a 10-pack of rations will cost 5 silvers. Chain armor, of course, which you definitely can't afford right now, but is available 500 silvers. And then, of course, he also has daggers at 20 silvers. You get 1 point just for talking to him. So go ahead and exit the dry goods shop and then head west, and we're going to be on Tavern Street. Now, Tavern Street, there's 2 main areas of Tavern Street. There's 3 if you count these closed shops. There's the tavern here, and then there's the alleyway. Now, we're going to go down that alleyway, and I always think it's a good idea when you go down a dark alley to make sure you save your game. So we're going to go ahead and save the game, and then we're going to walk down that dark alley. Now, once we get down this alley, we're going to find a beggar, and he wants money, of course, because he's a beggar. So go ahead and give him some money. No harm in that. And because you do that, he's going to give you some advice and not to go out at night. It's very dangerous outside the town at night. But you'll also get the opportunity to ask him some questions. Now, here's something to note with this. He gets tired of talking to you after a little while. So make sure you ask him the right questions. So ask him about night. He'll tell you that there's a spell and it's not really safe, and the only people who are out at night are thieves. Ask him about thieves. Ask him about the spell. You can ask him about Crusher, who's the bodyguard at the tavern. And then make sure you ask him about brigands. And how he tells you how they've gotten so much more sophisticated than they were. And then you can ask about, whatever else you want. Eventually he will come up with this message that basically says, I gotta get back to work, leave me alone. Now you can give him more money and you can ask him all that you want, but the main thing is to make sure you ask him about night and the brigands and all the topics that come up after those. So now we're going to go ahead and leave the tavern, or leave the alleyway, excuse me. He gives you a little warning, don't drink the dragon's breath, and head into the tavern. Now, right off the bat, you'll see we are in a lovely little tavern. We've got some people hanging out. You've got some drunkard over here. You've got Crusher, who is this guy blocking this little trapdoor. Now, this trapdoor is actually for the Thieves Guild, so we won't be going down there in this walkthrough, but that's what that's for. You also see what looks to be a crumpled piece of paper on the floor. Go ahead and pick that up. Like in all these adventure games, if it's there, pick it up. Tells you, there's a little conversation here happening between B and B. Somebody's getting suspicious, and they're going to hold off on meetings, but they're going to keep us posted by these notes. So that's good to know. So you get 2 points for picking up that note. Now, there's really nothing else here to do. You can order some ale if you want. There's really no reason to do that unless you want to, have fun, kid around. If you're going to order something, don't, some words of advice, don't order the dragon's breath because it will kill you. Don't order troll's sweat because you'll lose 5 points for doing that. And don't drink more than 3 glasses of ale. So just some words of wisdom if you want to partake in anything at the tavern. We're going to go ahead and leave the tavern and head back to the main town square. Okay. Now, it's not quite sunset yet, which means it's not quite supper time yet. So Abdullah's not at the inn yet. And you know this because when sunset comes around, people leave. So the Otto and the sheriff are no longer there. Hilde won't be there anymore. And so we still got some time to kill. So we're actually going to go ahead and complete our first quest and visit the healer. So we're going to leave town. And you'll actually get a point just for stepping outside the town. And we're going to head north, because that's where the healer's hut is. Now, one thing to note about the area surrounding the village of Spielberg. It can be a little confusing. And so what you probably want to do is find yourself a map of the area. You can find them very easily online, just searching, walkthrough or map, Spielberg, Quest for Glory. Or you can create your own. It's just very handy. It's a little bit easier to find things because as we start walking through the forest, it's going to be harder and harder to get to where you want to go. So once we go north, we're going to go ahead and enter the healer's hut. And we're going to head enter in. She's going to introduce herself. Just mentions she buys spell components. And then we're going to want to have a conversation with her. So we're pretty much going to ask her about everything there is to ask. You definitely want to make sure you ask her about potions, spell components, and the ring. So we'll start with potions. She tells you, okay, healing, power, vigor, and undead unguent. So let's ask about each of those. So of course, healing, potion. Vigor is for stamina. Ask her about stamina if you want. Ask about power potion. Ask her about the undead unguent. As you can imagine, we're going to need that later on. So we can ask her about zombies and floating spirits. Ask her about magic. Make sure you ask her about herself, because that's where she's going to tell you about the ring. And she's lost it, and she doesn't know where it is. And ask her about the reward, 6 gold coins. Ask her about her pet, Terry, who's a petrosaur. Flying lizard. Ask her about spell components. She tells you she's always in need of Arana's flowers, magic mushrooms, troll beard, and cheetah claws. And that she'll pay for them, and if you bring back empty flasks, she can, recycle them. Ask about each of the spell components. Ask about troll beard. She'll tell you can only get it from the troll. Very difficult to heal. Ask about Arana's flowers. If we can find Arana's piece, she'll give us money for flowers. So that's a great way to just buy a bunch of flowers and then sell them to her. And it tells you where Arana's piece is. Ask her about cheetah claws. To fight the cheetah to get the claw. Ask her about flasks. Great. Make sure, now one very important piece, make sure you ask her about mandrake root. This is going to come up later on in the game, and if you haven't asked her about it, you're not going to be able to actually complete that part of the quest. So make sure you ask her about mandrake root. You don't need to ask her about anything else, and you don't need to buy anything from her at this time. We can just go ahead and walk back outside. She just mentions her ring again. Now that we're outside, you're going to notice that her little pet's friend is outside here and is sitting in a nest. And if you notice, that just happened, there's a little twinkle in that nest. Well, you can bet that that's where the ring is. So go ahead, pull up your magic, get fetch. Again, why we got fetch from the magic shop earlier. And cast it. And it'll bring the nest down to you, and you'll pull the ring out of the nest. And done. Now you can go back into the healer's hut. and get the ring from the inventory and give it to her. And she'll be so excited, and she'll give you 6 gold and 2 healing potions. And a big, wet, sloppy kiss. And then you will leave. Boom. So by now it's getting a little bit later in the game, and we want to go ahead and head back to town. Now, if you're outside at night, they close the gate, so you're not able to get in. So make sure you get back to the town before it gets dark. Now, you can see that it's sunset because the sheriff and Otto have left their post. Now, that means we can go into the Hero's Tale. Before we do that, though, we're going to run over to the magic shop, because now we've got 6 gold. We have enough money to buy another spell. So we're going to go ahead and buy the open spell. And again, there's a strategic reason why we're buying the open spell now. Because we're going to need that later on. Let's go ahead, buy the open spell. Boom. Now, we don't have enough. We have 31 silver, so we don't have enough for Flame Dart, but we did have enough for the open spell. Now, if you didn't buy the fetch spell when we first started out, you could have completed getting the ring by throwing rocks at it, and that's actually how the fighter does it. You pick up rocks and you just keep throwing it, and eventually you'll hit it and knock it out of the tree. So you could have completed it that way if you wanted to, if you have the throwing skill. If you picked a different spell that's okay than fetch, then you can, you can always come back to it. That's one of those quests that's just pretty much always there until you do it. So now that we went east after the magic shop, we're going back into the Hero's Tale Inn, and look who's there. Abdullah is hanging out. Let's go ahead and sit down next to him. And he's going to strike up a conversation with you. Shima's going to come out. And make sure you order him some food. So buy Abdullah a meal just by taking the purse and clicking it on him. And you'll make a very good friend by doing that. And he tells you about a magic rug, and he'll take you back to Shapir if you find it, and help him recover his treasure. Now, we also want to make sure we have a conversation with Abdullah. You get 5 points just for chatting with him, and make sure you ask him about the robbery. He's going to tell you how it happened, what happened, who was there, and ask about the bring-ins. He's going to tell you there were 12 and a minotaur, a leader, and there was magic. So now ask about each of these things. Ask about magic, that you blinded. Ask about the minotaur. Ask about the leader, the wizard, and the guards. Ask him about his wealth. Tells you again about the magic carpet. Now you can ask him about everything else. You don't have to. It's not going to reveal, I don't think, anything new. But kind of gives you this foreshadowing to what the next part of the quest is going to be. When you're done speaking with him, go ahead and stand up. You don't need to order any food because you've eaten recently. And tonight's probably a good night to go ahead and stay at the inn. You're here already. It's the first day. You might as well go ahead, spend some money you just earned, and spend the night in the room. Get a nice, good, well-rested sleep to start out the day. And you wake up feeling nice and refreshed. You won't actually be hungry, so you don't have to worry about ordering food for every meal. You can just kind of move on. So we're going to go ahead, leave the inn, head back out to the town square, and walk back out to the town. And now we're back outside the town. Now, first things first, let's go ahead and save the game. I like to save it as a different name just because, who knows? We may have to go back and fix something. And this can be a very dangerous game. So we're going to now venture out down the road. So we're going to head east. And we're actually going to walk all the way east until we can go no further. Now, I know why we're going east, and you'll soon find out. If you're just playing this game, you're probably kind of like, stumbling around and, looking to where to go, and eventually you'll find this. Really, what the main purpose of this is, we're going to try to get all the points we can and learn everything we can. Well, so now we found out we can't go any further east. It appears that there's been an avalanche, so there's no way out. So now we're going to go ahead and head back west. Now, you didn't get any points for doing that, but it's good information to have. And it actually triggers something else. Ah, there's a fox, and he's caught in a trap. Well, being the hero you are, you should definitely help him out. So go ahead and release him from the trap. In exchange for your kindness, he'll give you some advice and a bit of information. Baba Yaga put an enchantment on the Baron's daughter. To break the spell, you need to talk to the Dryad. So we now know where the Baron's daughter is, or at least that she's been put under a spell, and we have to talk to the Dryad. So that's some good information to start out with. And you also get 10 points for freeing him, so that's good. We're going to go ahead, head back west to the main gate to town. And now we're going to go ahead and head north back to the healer's hut. Although we're not going to go into the healer's hut, we're just kind of going by. And we're going to head west from here. Now, if you remember, Hilde told us that her father's farm was nearby. And that's exactly where we're going. We're going to go ahead to the farm and meet Heinrich, the centaur, who's farming. And it'd be a great idea, of course, new person. Let's go talk to him. So, definitely going to ask him who he is, ask him about Hilde, ask him about the farmer's mart, ask him about the harvest. Go ahead and ask him about his farm. Ask him about vegetables and fruit and the field. And then go ahead and ask him about the brigands and the attack. And he tells you a little more information about these brigands. Ask him about the leader of the brigands. And the leader was very helpful, carried him to the healer. Ask him about the healer. Okay, great. You don't need to ask him pretty much about anything else. You do get a point for asking him questions. You get 3 if you ask him about the leader, which we did. So you should be all set there. Go ahead and leave the area now and head back east. Now we're going to head up to the castle, which you can see in the distance. So we're going to go ahead and head north. And here you are at the castle gates. And of course, the guard keeper. So let's go ahead and talk to him. And of course, you'll get 5 points for questioning him. Make sure you ask him about... You can ask him his name. His name's Carl. There's not really anything great about that. Ask him about the castle. Whoops. And then ask him about everything underneath. So he tells you can get a job mucking out the stables. Ask him about the stables. Ask him about the Baron. Ask about his loss. Losing both his son and his daughter. Ask more about Elsa. Gives us a little bit more information about her, what she looks like, how she was stolen from the Baron, the Jester joining the search, nobody's been able to find it, Baba Yaga's hut, ask about the hut. This man has a wealth of information. There's a lot of really great information. The Baroness, how she died after the birth of her daughter. Ask about the Jester Yorick, who swore his life to protect Elsa. Ask about Baba Yaga. Ask about the curse that she placed on everybody. Ask about her hut. I'm lost on what we haven't asked about. Ask about Bernard, the son. How he rode off and was never seen again. Ask about the reward. 50 gold. Ask about being a hero. Ask about the guard. Pretty good. You can ask about the brigands. It's probably a good idea to ask them. Ask him about them and the brigand leader. Tells you a lot about what's happening. Oops. He likes to walk away from you. And the treasure. And that's enough. Go ahead and use your hand on the gate and he'll let you in. And we'll go ahead and enter the courtyard. Alright, we're now in the main courtyard. And we are going to go ahead and head east to the stables. Now, if you remember, the gatekeeper Carl told us that there was a job available for us at the stables. And it's just mucking out the stables. So we're going to go ahead and walk towards them. Actually, yep. And the stable master will come out and say, hey, do you want a job? Say yes. You'll head in, take a rake. And you'll work some good old muck raking for 5 silver. You also get 5 points for doing it at least once. So, might as well do it. You know, one of the things is this does drain down your stamina. So, keep that in mind. But overall, if you need some money, you can come back here pretty much every day and get an extra 5 silvers. There's lots of ways to raise money and make money as you go throughout the game. So now that we've cleaned out the stables, we're going to go back and head west again. Now, this is the weapon master. He's going to come out and he's going to talk, or he's going to, do some little sword dancing, and you can talk to him and ask him. All right, well, you can stand closer to him and ask him. Ask him about fighting. And he tells you about the art of the fight and the skill. And you'll get a point for asking him that. Talks to you a little about striking and parrying. No skill in parry, so you're not going to benefit from his lessons. If you had put skill points in parry, you could probably fight with him. The fighter will definitely actually use him as a... why can't I walk? The fighter will actually use him to train. But as not a fighter, you won't be doing that. So now we're going to go ahead and head back down. So we're going to head back to the farm. And there's two little areas that we can go to. And these are also both things that you can do every day and help to raise some money for yourself when you feel like you're low on cash. Remember, we're still trying to save up to buy that Flame Dart spell. So we're heading back to the farm, and we're going to go 3 screens west of here. And then 2 south. And that's going to take us to the Mushroom Ring. So if you have a map, now you have an idea where we're going. Now, here's our first battle. You can see the goblin coming up behind us. Now remember, we don't have the flame dart spell. What am I doing? So you can cast... We don't know the flame dart spell, so it's best to get over to just attacking him. Now remember, because of our skills that we upped at the beginning, it was very easy for us to defeat him. You may not have as lucky of a shot, and you may want to run from that, because we still don't have the flame dart spell. And we're going to go ahead and head west again. So this will be... You'll note there's going to be a bunch of goblins here. This is like their training camp. You can try to avoid them. They will attack you. But once you get to the goblin training camp, head south twice. Oh, and make sure you search. I did it, but I didn't mention it. Make sure you search whenever you kill something. Make sure you search. Then pull out the money, whatever it is that's there. So this is the mushroom ring. Go ahead and use your hand to collect some mushrooms. Okay? Where you can do this a few times, and you can go ahead and sell those mushrooms to the healer. And you should do that at least once, because it will net you 1 point. But you can do it multiple times so that you have, more money. One thing to note is that when and if you come here at night, do not enter the mushroom ring. You can walk around it, but don't go into the actual ring. You will not survive. And you'll see why later on. So we're going to actually go back to the farm now. So 2 screens north and 3 east. And for your benefit, I'm going to go ahead and adjust the speed so that I'm walking faster, so that we're not just kind of hanging out here for so long. So now we're going to head all the way back east to the farm. And now we're back at the farm, and now we're going to head north. We're heading towards Arana's Peace. So we're going to head all the way north as far as we can go. And then east. Whoops. That's not east. That's east. Okay. And then we're going to go north. And now we've entered Arana's Peace. And it tells you a little bit about Arana's Peace in the area here. Now, there's quite a few things for us to do here, especially as a magic user. Now, number one, no matter what class you are, this is a great place to sleep. If you find yourself outside of the town, the village gates, and it's dark, it's nighttime, this is a very safe place to sleep. You can't sleep just in the forest anywhere. You can sleep here, though, and you'll be protected. So that's a great place to start out with. 2, this fruit tree here, you can eat the fruit, and it'll actually restore all of your health and stamina and magic points. You can only do that, I think, once a day, but it'll fully satisfy you, and then you won't have to eat any rations. We're also going to want to go ahead and take a look at this interesting stone over here. There's marks carved into it like writing. So make sure you go ahead and use your hand on it so you can... Oh, I thought we were going to read it. Well... Carved upon their runes are carved along the side. I thought for some reason you could actually read it. Alright. Now remember we bought the open spell? There's a reason we bought that. Because looky, we're able to open that up, and there's a scroll inside, and now we know the calm spell. So, very important. The other thing you can do here is grab flowers. These are the flowers that the healer was talking about, and you can sell these flowers to her. So make sure you grab them. You can grab as many as you want. You'll only get 1 point for giving them to the healer one time, but feel free to grab more. Now, as a magic user, you're going to want to sleep here, which is annoying. see what time of day it is. Midday. Okay, so we've got plenty of time. We're going to come back here and sleep here tonight. You'll get 5 points for sleeping here as a magic user, and there's a lot more to be done. So, let's head back down to the farm. So, south, west, and then just head all the way south until we hit the farm. It's midday. There's plenty of time to do more here. Back down here at the farm, we're going to head east to the healer's hut. And now that we're at the healer's hut, we're going to head... actually, you know what? Let's go into the healer's hut, because we've got the mushrooms and the flowers that we can sell her. So head back into the healer's hut and grab those flowers. And then go ahead and grab those mushrooms. Let's do a quick assessment. How much money do we have? So we've got 50. So we actually should have... That should be enough, I think, to buy the Flame Dart spell. So we're going to head back into town. Aha! Now, here is Bruno. He basically will sell information. Now, you can try to ask him stuff, but he won't tell you anything unless you give him money. So go ahead and give him a silver. Just one. And then, of course, he's going to want another silver. So go ahead and give him another one. Ask him about Baba Yaga. He'll tell you where her house is. Ask him about the castle and the goblins. So ask him about monsters. Ask about goblins. Ask him about the Baron. And let's see. Ask him his name, if you would like. You pretty much ask him whatever you want. Ask about the healer, what have you. Enough. Okay. Now, of course, because we spent some money on him, we don't have enough money to buy the Flame Dart spell. But that's okay. We'll be earning money throughout. You do get 2 points for talking to him. So that's why we did that.